I would like to talk a little bit. One of the big issues here at WISE has been to how do you take the ideas of passionate people with great projects and then spread them so that they could be used in other countries or other places. So we have here sort of three people who are passionate about what they do and have seemingly good ideas. I'd like to talk a little bit about can they be moved to other places and how do you do that? Brij, how did you start and take a small idea and get it to spread across a big, diverse place like India? And then have you tried to take it to other countries?
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea really started very small. It's essentially, me trying to learn Spanish, watching a lot of Spanish films, and they all came with English subtitles, and the thought was, why don't they put Spanish subtitles on Spanish films? I'll learn the language better. The next thought was, why don't they put Hindi subtitles on Hindi films? Perhaps 100 million people in India will get reading practice in their everyday television viewing. Then we did 5 years of research and actually found that the impact was quite dramatic, and you saw President Clinton mention that, but essentially doubles the number of functional readers coming out of primary school children. Doubles. I mean, I'm not talking about this. So this is a very small change. It's almost, I mean, I've heard you talk about it as your work as a butterfly effect, and exactly what it is, I think. You have a small perturbation on television into something that people already consume, and boom, you got now 200 million people getting weekly reading practice. And it's measured, we're following about 15,000 people in India since 2002. So the work is proven in India. Now there's interest in taking it to other countries. For example, Nickelodeon wants to implement this on television in Nigeria for children's programming. Right? So it has already spread within the country on 10 languages in India. What we're telling policy is that why don't you put it on all song-based programming in all languages? So firstly, it promotes reading skill development in that language as a lifelong process, mind you. It's very important. It's as a lifelong process. Reading doesn't start and end with school. It has to go on through youth, through adulthood.
And so one of your ideas is to create stories, basically, that are not linked to any platform. They can just go on a screen, and that are not linked to any language, necessarily. And then those, you can add a language and put it on any screen. Is that part of the idea?
Absolutely. So we did some research in India in the villages, and we asked village after village, is there even one single children's book in the village? They found textbooks, they didn't find children's books. So the next thought was, okay, if media is already part of their lives, 700 million people with access to television, 800 million people with access to mobile phones, they're looking at screens, we know that. So the idea was, can you have an animated story? We know if the narration comes as subtitle in the same language, people will read along. So that was the thought, that if we create basically an animated story with read-along subtitles and then put it on every screen you can imagine, screens like these, mobile phones, televisions, and then you can collaborate virtually with people around the world. So for example, somebody in Kenya who wants a story, children's story in Swahili, they take our English text, they do the translation and narration virtually, they send it to us, we piece it together and put it back out on YouTube or other media that are accessible.
Okay, thank you, Brij. Rana, how have you taken, you told us in the beginning how you were going to one mosque, a read aloud program. How did that spread to other mosques in Jordan and possibly even to libraries in the US and Thailand? How did that spread happen?
So it's all based on the model, that it's a very simple, cost-efficient model that doesn't require much. It only requires one woman from the neighborhood. And that woman, we train her in one day how to read aloud, simply, just to change her voice while she's reading. And we give her a few books as a seed library. And that's enough for her to start that library. So one of the tenets of success is that we're not basing our success on adults. Because I don't believe that you can change an adult after they're grown up. So we're basing it, we only have to train one adult, and that's enough to change the children. That's number one. Number two, we also build into our model that the woman who's in charge is independent. So this builds sustainability for the future because she feels that this is her library, this is her project, and this is what keeps her going, and that's her incentive, rather than depending on a mother institution to keep her going. We only provide a network. Thirdly, we have a domino effect. Every lady we train, we tell her that she has to train someone else. So it's like a pay-it-forward project. And in this sense, a lot of our libraries have begun in Saudi Arabia and Lebanon and Tunis from this domino effect, as well as in what happened in Turkey and then Azerbaijan and in Malaysia and other countries. But to add to that...
Let me interrupt with one question. What about the books themselves? Do the mosques become libraries, or where are the books stored?
All right. So what happens is that we don't need, that's why the model is so simple, we don't need a place to store the books. The books are given out to the children so that they can take them home and relive the experience. Because research has shown if you want to plant the love of reading, the child has to have the book in his hands in his spare time to plant that love of reading. So we don't need a bookshelf. The books go out, and every time there's a read aloud, they come back in exchange. And for funding, what happened is that when I started the library in my neighborhood, I paid for the first batch of books. But then the mosque was so happy about what was going on, they funded buying books every 6 months out of the money that they received. And then we trained the ladies that for them to be autonomous and to plan ownership for that library, that they can think of different ways of fundraising and by involving the community through a bake sale, through children putting donations, because now you are empowering the child to do something he likes.
And within Jordan, how many read aloud programs would you say there are?
There are about 100, and not necessarily all of them in the mosques. We took the mosque as a model because it's present in every neighborhood, so nobody can deny the fact that there's no location. But if it's a Christian community, it could be done in a church. If the mosque is not available, it could be done in a community center or a nursery. It's the fact that bringing back the mosque into the original usage of being a community center rather than just a place of worship for men.
And what ages are you trying to target?
So our target group are ages 4 to 10, boys and girls, because you can have both of them together in the mosque at that age. And research has proven that to plant the love of reading, you have to start at an early age. And the younger, the better. So that's the perfect age group to start. And they also cater to a certain type of books that are available now in Arabic in the Arab world. I'd like to comment on
yes, please, by all means.
Because he was talking about reading PlanetRead, and that through your method you're going to encourage everyone, adults and children, to know how to read by following the captions. But I think what's more basic is my model, because when you have to start at the grassroots to make the child love to read, not just to watch a movie, because movies by themselves are not enough to create an imagination, to increase vocabulary. You need to read the text, because the text you have all the descriptions of the personalities of the scenario, which is lost in the movie because somebody already did all that imagination for you. So you need to start with this and maybe complement it with your program.
What do you have to say to that, Bridge? Isn't there some magic to an animated voice reading a book?
So I love that finally we're having a debate. This is great. So the way I react to this is that really it's not this or that, it's both. Yes, you do need a love for reading, and you do need the technical skill to be able to read, right? Now, clearly, if you want to create the love for reading, I would say her program does that beautifully, and I would support that and almost embrace that. What the part that probably we will all have to consider is how do you, and the number is important, how do you get 600 million people in India who today don't read? 600 million people, okay, I'm going to repeat that. How do you take masses of these people and give them the technical skill or the love for reading, by the way, right? Now, 600 million people love for reading is a huge challenge, has to be met with different strategies. But the technical part is integrated into something that they already love to do, which is watch films. They're always going to watch these films. So a byproduct of entertainment really now becomes reading ability.
Thank you very much for coming to Simple Ideas, Big Results.